Okay, this video is for when we have irrational solutions. And I have two examples because there's one when the radical does not simplify and one when it does simplify. So there's a little extra work there. So this first one, again, before we can use the quadratic formula, we have to set it equal to 0, which means we have to subtract that 4v squared to the other side because it's positive, so we subtracted. Remember, it just goes with only one term on the other side, the one that's a like term. So in this case, the v squareds go together, so 9v squared minus 4v squared gives us 5v squared. Rest stays the same. Now that is set equals 0, we can use our quadratic formula. We have our a, our b, our c. So we can go ahead and plug on in. So we have opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Remember, we're solving for v here. That's the whole point of this. Solve for v, find the roots of the equation. So we do this whole part underneath first. So 11 squared is 121 minus 4 times 5 times 5 is 100. So 121 minus 100 is going to turn into, 21. And then this bottom part here, 2 times 5 is 10. So we get to v is negative 11 plus or minus the square root of 21 all over 10. So notice that was the same as the first slide. Up to there, you're just simplifying everything you can until you get to this square root. So once you're into the square root now, here's where we find out what type of answer he is. So test it. If you don't know your perfect squares, not a problem at all. Let's test this out. If we type square root of 21 into our calculator, we get approximately 4.582, so forth, so forth. That means it's not a perfect square. So if a problem says to keep your answer in simplest radical form, or it might just say keep your answer exact. When you are told to do an exact answer, that means you keep the square root. You do not want the decimal. So this one we want to keep exact. We want the irrational answer. We do not want the decimal. We just want to simplify with that radical. We could just be done with this answer right here because the square root of 21 does not simplify. This is 3 times 7. There are no pairs. That is as far as it goes. We're done. If you would like to see your two answers separately, as we have been used to seeing, we can also just very quickly write out that v is going to be negative 11 plus root 21 over 10, or v is negative 11 minus root 21 over 10. So really, this is quicker than the last one because at this point, there's no more we can do. So that's the answer in simplest radical form. Now this next problem, we'll have to go a little bit further. Same idea. We still want exact answer, simplest radical forms. That means we do not want decimals in our answer. But this one will simplify a bit further. So first, again, set equal to 0. Subtract our 4k over, and it goes with its like term. So in this case, that's the 14k. So we have 5k squared plus 10k plus 1 equals 0. We are now in standard form, set equals 0. We can use our quadratic formula. Let's see, opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And our variable this time is k, so that's what we're solving for. Just as before, this is the same process. We do square root first, and this is going to determine our type of answer. So 10 squared is 100 minus 4 times 5 is 20. So under that square root, we are getting 80. Other part, 2 times 5 is 10. So this gets us to negative 10 plus or minus square root of 80 all over 10. So again, first step is just to type square root of 80 into your calculator, see if it's a perfect square. In this case, when we type square root of 80 in, we get 8.944, so forth, so forth, so forth. Again, we want to keep answer exact, and I will always be very clear about that, which means no decimal. So in this case, we don't want that 8.944. Essentially, we are done at the negative 10 plus or minus root 80 over 10, except we have to try to simplify the radical. So in this case, square root of 80, that's 2 times 40. Keep going. 2 times 20. 2 times 10. 2 times 5. And remember, once you break down a part, we can ignore those. So the goal is to look for pairs. So we have a pair of 2's. We have another pair of 2's. So remember, any pairs come out front. So we have 2 2's that come out front. Anything else stays inside. And then when you have multiple numbers, outside or inside, you multiply them. So 2 times 2 is 4. So that means square root of 80 simplifies down to 4 root 5. And then we have our 2 roots. So I'm going to go ahead and separate them out. So we have k is equal to negative 10 plus 4 root 5 over 10, or negative 10 minus 4 root 5 over 10. So now if you've done some of the math yet, you will have seen how it splits it up potentially. So we can do a little more here. Notice we have a lot of even numbers, so 2 divides into everything. We want to fully simplify this, and this is when the simplification kind of just keeps going. What we can do is we can split up this fraction. So when you get to this point and you've simplified the radical and you notice there might be some reducing, you want to split the fraction. So I can write this as negative 10 over 10 plus 4 root 5 over 10. I just split it up, essentially undo the common denominator, because now k equals negative 10 divided by 10, type that in the calculator, that's just negative 1, plus, and then 4 over 10. And use your calculator, use Desmos to help you. If you type 4 divided by 10 into Desmos, and then you click the little fraction button on the left, it'll simplify the fraction for you. It turns into 2 over 5. So there's one answer. When you are simplifying these fractions, you're looking at the coefficients. You're simplifying that 4 over root 10. Nothing can happen to the root 5. It's stuck. Okay, other one. Negative 10 minus 4 root 5 over 10. We're going to do the same thing. Split it up and reduce. Negative 1 minus 2 root 5 all over 5. So these are the ones that get into the most extensive part of simplifying, is when you can mess with that radical. If it doesn't simplify, great. You're done at this step up here. If it does simplify, you want to simplify and reduce.